Little Miss Neat and her tidy house. Little Miss Neat hates a mess. As soon as one comes along, she has cleaned and tidied away before you can say Jack Robinson. And when there is not a mess, she still cleans and tidies up. She is so neat and tidy that when she goes shopping, she can't help tidying the shop. She takes all the tins off the shelves, dusts the shelves, and then dusts each tin, and then stacks all the tins in neat rows back on the shelves. She is so neat and tidy that she spends all autumn out in her garden. And what does she do all autumn out in her garden? I'll tell you. She rakes the leaves. Every time a leaf falls from a tree, she has to tidy it up. And as you know, there are an awful lot of leaves on a tree, which makes for an awful lot of tidying up. Poor little Miss Neat does not get a moment's rest. Now, little Miss Helpful, who lives just down the road from little Miss Neat, saw how hard little Miss Neat works and decided that she would help little Miss Neat. And with a name like she has, you would think that little Miss Helpful is, well, helpful. But you would be wrong. Because little Miss Helpful is the sort of person who tries to be helpful, but the more she tries, the less helpful she is. But that does not stop her trying, as you will see. Little Miss Neat had been up since 6 o'clock in the morning, polishing her clothes pegs. Well, that's the sort of person she is. She had just finished when there was a knock at the door. It was little Miss Helpful. "You must let me help," cried little Miss Helpful. "But said little Miss Neat, who had been about to say that she did not need any help. But before she could finish, little Miss Helpful had already begun to help, if that's what you could call it. There was a pile of clean, neatly folded napkins on the kitchen table. "Let me hang these out for you," said little Miss Helpful. She grabbed the clean napkins and the polished clothes pegs and rushed out of the back door and tripped over the doormat and landed in the flower bed. All little Miss Neat's clean napkins and polished pegs were covered with soil. "Never mind," said little Miss Helpful. "I'll soon have these washed." Before little Miss Neat could protest, she had bundled everything into the washing machine. But somehow or other, she did not close the door properly, and the washing machine flooded the kitchen. What a mess! There was water everywhere. It took little Miss Neat all day to clean up the mess that Miss Helpful had created. The next morning, as usual, little Miss Neat got up at 6 o'clock. Then she washed all the feathers in her pillow, one by one. Just as she finished, there was a knock at the door. It was little Miss Helpful. "It's only me," she cried, and rushed into little Miss Neat's house. "It's a bit stuffy in here," she said, and opened a window. A wind blew in through the open window and blew the feathers that little Miss Neat had so carefully washed all over the house. What a mess! There were feathers everywhere. And it took little Miss Neat all day to pick them up, wash them, and put them back in her pillowcase. That night, little Miss Neat could not sleep. Not a wink. She lay in bed worrying about the next day. She finally got to sleep late the next morning. There was a knock at the door, but Miss Neat was so tired that she did not wake up. She did not wake up until little Miss Helpful burst into her bedroom. "Well, I never!" cried little Miss Helpful. "There I was thinking you work all day, but here you are still in bed. I suppose you now think I'm going to do all the work around here. Well, I'm not going to help someone who lies in bed to this time of the morning." And she stormed out of little Miss Neat's house. Little Miss Neat smiled to herself, and for the first time in her life, she rolled over and went back to sleep.
Nobody's neater than little Miss Neat. Her home is the neatest in our street. Of dust and dirt, there's never a trace, and everything is kept in its proper place. than little Miss Neat.
And little Miss Neat,
Her home is the
her
neatest
home is the neatest
in our street
in our street
of dust and dirt.
of dust and dirt.
There's never a trace,
There's never a trace,
and everything
and everything
is kept in its proper place. Nobody's neater
nobody's neater
than little Miss Neat.
and little Miss Neat.
Her home is the
Her
neatest
home is the neatest
in our street
in our street
of dust and dirt.